Today, alhamdulillah wa salatu wa salam ala Rasulullah. So today we started from where we stopped yesterday. Yesterday we stopped on variable. And before we start, uh, let me shed more light on variable. Variable is not the same in math, it's not the same in economics, and it's not the same thing in programming language. So in programming language, a variable is just like a container. Is like a container or a plate, or which is having data stored in it. So is having data stored in it. So this is what is called a container. So when you're talking about a variable in programming language, we call it a container. So it contains several types of data values inside it. So how do you create a variable in Python? Python has no specific command for declaring a variable. So a variable is just created the moment you first assign a value to it. So you assign a value to it, then it's being created. What do you mean assign a value? When you say x is equals to this, then that is a variable. Y is equals to this, that is a variable. It doesn't have a specific way to declare it. So it's a very easy way to do. So I will show you some examples like we did yesterday. So the next slide. So we show the example like x is equals to 5. This x is a variable, and we keep this value, which is 5, a data inside it. So this x is like a container, a bucket carrying this value 5. Then y is also like a container carrying this value John. You will notice the difference between 5 and John. Who can tell me what difference you notice there? What difference do you notice between 5 and John? Yeah, anyone?
5 doesn't have a code. Y has.
So 5, X doesn't have a quote and Y has a quotation. Can you tell me the reason why the first one doesn't have and Y is got quotation?
Because it's a number.
Because 5 is a number and John is not a number. John is, so what do you call John? What's that called in programming language?
What?
So it's called a string. What do I call it? It's called a string. Yeah. So you call it a string. So a string is something that is written in I lost my the code for my Wacom. So inshallah I would get another one soon. So this is a string. So and this is an integer. This is an integer. So this is I will type it properly when we will move on to the next level, inshallah. So this is an integer. So integers do not need to have a quotation. Integers do not need to have a quotation, but strings need to have a what? Need to have a quotation. So because programming languages do not know how to deal with letters, the computational things does not know how to deal with letters. So they see letters as something strange, but they can easily understand numbers. So this is the reason why you will not have any problems with x is equals to 5. But if you don't put quotation in John, it's going to give you a big problem. So when you say print x, print y, it's going to print x and it's going to print y for you. Mind you, it's not going to print x. It's not going to say x, but it's going to print the value of x. And if you put the x in quotation, it's going to print x and it's going to print y. Let me take you to my Replit and show you what I'm talking about. Give me 1 minute to get you replicate here. So who is not here? We still have a lot of people not here. Today's weekend. Sheikh Omar, are you here? So just give me 1 minute. Let me close this. So reports. So now let's, okay, you see my screen? Hello?
Hello, sir. We are with you, sir.
Okay, class. So now let's say, for example, we want to print a string. Let's say like what we saw, x is equals to 5 and y is equals to Umar, or let me say Adam. So then you say print x, print y. Print x, print y. So if you run this, it's gonna print for you both x and y. So it print 5 and it prints Adam. And some people usually find a way around the programming. They'll put a comma. And they say print x, print y. So some people do this, and sometimes it does print it one after the other. But sometimes if you try to do it like this, it might print it in a good way. So, but it's still printing it in front of y because they are having the same bracket. So if you want to print it next to each other, so maybe you can put both of them into different quotation. Then put everything into bracket. So let's say it's going to print here. So this is what I was telling you yesterday, that you should try your best to try many things. You understand? Try many things. Don't say it's not going to work. It might work. So try your best to make sure you try as many as possible things. So I will comment out all of this, or I should just remove it. So let me comment this out or remove it. Let me delete them. So it's because I want you to have, just take a look at what we're doing alone today. So let me comment this out. So let's reprint what we're printing. So what we're printing today, we're printing Adam, and we're printing X and Y. So someone would, I was saying now that why is it not printing, something, is not printing X, yani XX? Why is it printing the value of X? Because we've already given the X the value of 5. So every time you call to print X, it's going to print the value, not X. So this is something we need to know. So if you now make a mistake, this is a mistake many people make when they are new in programming. They put quotation in every word, in every letter. They say print X. You will see what would happen now. It's going to print X for you. Okay, see, it print X. It does not print the value of X. So because if you already assigned a value to a variable, the value is what is stored in the brain of the computer. So when you say print that value, it's going to print what? It's going to print the value of that number, of that letter, not the letter by itself. So this is exactly what it is. So let's say, for example, a person wants to print, you want to print these two things, and you want to have them, you want to print Adam in multiple ways. So you can say print, I want to do something, it's good to play around with these things. Print Y, print Y, then print Y, then in print Y, then in X. I'm trying to play again. print y times, okay, let's say print y times 5. Print y times 5. So the meaning of this is print y times 5. Now we'll run it. So when I run it, can you see it's giving you Adam. It's printed y in 5 places. So it does not actually understand that you send multiply y times 5. No, it's going to multiply that value of that what of that y. So if you want to print the y, you have to put your y into what? To quotation. You have to put y, quote it, and you quote it. So if you quote it this way and you run it, it's going to print for you y. So this is how we do it. So another thing we need to do is, if I give this y another value now, let's say I give it another value, Eva or Eve. I give the y another value, which is Eve, or our, let's use our. So then I want to print y now. So if I say print the print statement, and I say print y. So what would I get? I will not get Adam anymore. I'll get our, because it's the next one is going to overshadow, is going to overprint the first one. So once you call once you give a variable a value, if you give the variable another value, the variable will not recognize the old value again. Is that understood? So we usually use the same biological problem. Let's say, for example, IAT, let me say print A, print A, T, C, G. So I want to print A, T, C, G. So then I want to print it in 10 times. But you will notice that all of this has to be put in quotation because there is nothing like it. I'm trying to show you how we use Python in biological things. So let's say if it's gonna work. There is a problem. Print, okay. What I would do, I will just give it a value. Now I will say, okay, let me do it, and I want you to see something. So when I say print this, times, if I say print this alone, it's gonna print it. It's gonna print the value ATCG. So if I now say I want to print it, because in biology we just generate some random values, I print this times 10. It's gonna yell, it's gonna shout at me, because there is no relationship between these two things. So it would say what it says. The type error is called unsupported operand types. So for this non-type, it doesn't have a type of data. So what would you do? The best way to solve this problem is assign this to a value. Let me call it G. Let me call it G or gene. Let me say G, or let me say gene. Gene is equals to this. So then I will now say print what? Print gene times what? Times 5. So if I do this, now you will see that problem I wanted to solve. Let's see if it's going to solve now. So you run it, now you printed it. So sometimes we generate these sequences of genes using this simple programming language. Can you see this simple programming language we just did? We started generating sequences of genes. So we use this a lot in biological problems. In fact, we were the luckiest people to know about Python, because there are many things we will never be able to solve that it's going to solve for us. So this is different. These are the way we use what we call variable. Another thing we need to understand in variable is we call something type. We want to know a type of data we call data type. Yesterday, I talked about these things. I'm just trying to brush over because of the sheikh who wasn't here yesterday. So the data types we mentioned yesterday, we mentioned 4 basic data types, which I would mention them again. So the data types are the first one is integer. Integer is the first data type. The second one is string. The second one is string. So string. So the third one is boolean. And the fourth one is what? The fourth one is who can remember the fourth one? A float. So is but for me, float. So it's mentioning some other ones, but those ones are not, they're not the type of data, but they're not just simple types of data. So we have list, we have dictionary, we have all the rest. So we'll talk about those ones later. But for this fundamental class, so we will limit ourselves to these 3 data types. So 4 data types. So how do you use this? How do you get these values? Let's say, for example, I want to know what kind of data my gene is. What would I do? I would say print. I would say print. That's the first thing. Open the parentheses, and I'll say type of what? What kind of data is gene? That's the meaning of this code. So this syntax is asking what type of data is gene. So when you run it, it's going to tell you, oh, it's an error. It does not understand it because it does not know what kind of data a gene is. So it's, oh, I made a mistake here. I need to comment out all of this. So even though it doesn't know, it's going to tell you something about it. There's something good about this programming. So let's run it again and see. So they call it a string. Why? Because we got letters. A, T, C, G, T, C, G, T, C, G. So it's called string. So anything that has got any letters A, B, C to Z is a string with programming language. Now let's say what type of data X is. Print type X. Print the data type X is. So what do you think is going to print? It's an integer. So this int is called integer. So because Y is got a number. It's got a number. So now let me write another, let me write, for example, U is equals to, I can say U is equals to, U equals to X divided. This is how we do mathematical operation in Python. U divided by 2. You think this is not going to give me something? Because it does not know what U is. Let me put it down. Let me put it below it. So now I want you to notice something here. Do you see this place is giving me a problem? It's saying there's an error, it's not identified. Because I'm writing this code before I declared it as a variable. Do you understand what I'm saying? I'm writing this code up here in line 41, and I declared, excuse me, I declared X as a variable in line what? In line 44. Anything I write above it is not going to recognize X as anything. So that's why it's telling me already that's not identified. It's not defined. So now I can type, if I say U is equals to X divided by 2, and I run it, it's going to give me a value. So it said X is not defined. I need to run it again. It said X is
to comment out the one at the top.
Yeah. I think I need to comment. This is the problem with this kind of so I'll introduce you to another thing very soon. It's called Jupyter Notebook. It's an amazing work. So sometimes you need to be commenting out. It's too much work. So let me leave only X. And let me comment out all of the rest. Let me leave the rest. I don't think it's gonna affect it. So let's just try again and see. So it did not give me anything. So it did not even see the U. So let me call it again. U is equals to X divided by 2. Okay, Khalas, if it's not saying it, no problem. Let me just say X divided by 2, Khalas. X divided by 2 is not saying it too. Okay, let me say 5 divided by 2. Print 5 divided by 2. 5 divided by 2. So it's gonna print it as 2.5. So now I can give this result to, I can give it to something. Let me give it to U. Now let me say U is 5 divided by 2. So if I do this, it's already stored, then I will say print U. Okay, so now it's gonna print U as 2.5. All right, is it printing U or are you just telling me this one? Yeah, I think it's printing U. So now
I think it's printing U.
Yeah, let me now ask it type, and now I want to ask what kind of data is U. Print type U. So it's gonna tell me what? It's gonna tell me it's a float. Now can you see? So it's telling me it's a float because it's got a decimal place. If you have, let's say you have a T is 1,000, 1,000, as long as it is .0, then print type T. Let's see if it's going to run it together or it's going to turn error. So it tells me it's a float too because of this dot. Irrespective of how long your letter is, once you have a dot in it, once you have a decimal place, it's going to call it a float. So a float in Python is any letter that has a decimal place. All right. So now the next one is true and false. How do we use this true or false? So let's say, for example, I say 2 is greater than 5, or 2 is less than 5, for example. I said 2 is less than 5. I can say if 2 is less than 5.
Okay. Okay, I thought I was the only one that could not hear you. I didn't know you were not speaking yet.
Yeah, I wasn't speaking. If 2 is less than 5, print 2 is less than 5. Or I just say print true. Sometimes even you don't need to print. You can just say 2 less than 5. So you just say print 2 less than 5. So if you run this, sometimes it just tells you straight it's true. Can you see? It told me it's true. So I want to assign a value to this. I want to say y is equals to this. I've assigned a value. Now I want to print. It's very good to always assign something, test it first, and assign a value to it. Print the type of data y is. I'm asking a question now. Print the kind of data y is. So I run it. It tells me it's a bool. It's a Boolean value. So Boolean value are values which is going to give you the result of true or false. So if I swap this, let's say, for example, I have another one. Let me have another W is equals to 5 is less than 1, less than 2. So I already given this, okay? So if I run it, it's going to tell me what W, it's going to tell me W something.
I think the result is only for Y.
Huh? Yeah,
Yeah. You
yeah.
have not printed W yet.
Yeah. So I would what I would do is I usually like the way I usually do it. So the first thing I will do, I'll print it and I'll send a value. I can also send a value. I can just say W is equals to put into quotation. So we also do it like this sometimes. W is equals to so once you put into bracket, it's gonna be fine. So but if you're trying to print it without that, it doesn't work in some places, but it works in some places. It works in Jupyter Notebook. So it's not working here actually. So it's not seeing it. So let me print it first. Let me print Y5 is, so it's false. So now I would assign the value. I will say W. So this is something unique about Replit. So print W is equals to this. So print type W. So now it's going to also tell you is a what? Is a bool value. So this is mashallah, I've done a lot of things to do for you today. I'm not trying to make you get confused or trying to give you too many things, but I'm trying to make you see how we work as programmers. You try many things. You continue to try. So before you know, you get something new. So this is exactly how it is. So this is how we can try to know what kind of data we're working with. Sometimes you have a data, you don't know what data it is. So just say print type and that thing. So if you don't assign a value, let me try something here. Let me copy this and put it inside of W. Let's see. We usually try this sometimes and it works. So it works in some, did it work? How do we know? Let me remove all of this. So let me try this if it's printing it. So it worked. It worked. Did it say? Did it work? So I think it worked. Print T. Where is T? Okay, let me remove even T. I want to be sure it actually worked.
Yeah, T is float. I
Yeah,
think it
it
worked.
worked. So can you say it worked? So sometimes you can even use it directly without assigning a value to it. Print type and that thing you want to print, the type it is. So it worked. So this is exactly what programming is. You try, have fun. You don't break anything. You're not in a chemistry lab where you break a beaker or you break a Petri dish. So this is exactly what programming is all about. The more you try, the more you get to know many things. So this is exactly what programming is. Now let's do something called casting. Casting is for you to change one data type to another data type. So now everyone knows that gene, for example, let me say print gene again. Print type gene. Print type gene, isn't it? So if you say print type gene, what would it print for you? It's going to print for you what? A string, isn't it? I can cast the gene. Now I'll cast the gene for you. That will say int. Then cast gene for me. All right. So this is called casting. I want to change this gene to be an integer. So then I will assign a value to it. Let me call it A. A is equals to int is equals to int gene. Okay. So now let me run it. It's not going to give anything, but it's going to store in the brain. Okay, let me run it like this first. Let me run it like this. Okay. It's not working with it because gene is already being given a value. It's already been is a variable, so it's not going to work with it. So let's just use gene, which is okay. Let's use another word. Let's use let's use Beardon. Okay. So let's use Beardon because it's going to be thinking you're trying to print the string. No, you want to print gene. So let's print int Beardon. Everyone knows Beardon is going to be. Let me print Beardon here. So print type Biodun is going to print for you that Biodun is so it's going to print for you that Biodun is what is a string. Can you see? So now I want to change it to an integer. So we will cast it. So but it's saying for base 10. So we want to give it a value. Let's give it a value. A is equals to int Biodun. Okay. That means we can only convert a string to an integer to a string. So we cannot let me do string. Let me do string for 10 or 1000. So what we all know 1000 is not a string, right? It's an integer. So now let me now print A for you. Now I'll print A for you. Let me say print type A. All right. I think you already know A is 1000, which is an integer. So we casted it. Now let's see what's gonna happen. Did you see? It told me A is this one is a string. Can you understand what I'm saying now? So because I casted it, we've actually been trying to convert also a string to integer. But I noticed that most of the time he always complain that it's not going to work. So, but you know, many times you can just give it a trial and it works. But most of the time, what we can do is we can convert a string to an integer. We can convert a string to an integer, but in most cases, we cannot convert an integer to a string. Do you understand what I'm saying? Now, let me explain to you what I was saying in a better way to make you understand. So 1000, for example, let's say A is equals to equals to. Sorry, I'm using the second Mac. Sometimes it's very confusing with the keyboard. The Swedish keyboard is not American keyboard. So A is equals to 1000, okay? So then I want to print type A. All right. So if you run it, it's gonna tell you that is an integer. That's the last result, integer, right? Because it's 1000. So now let me cast it. Let me say the same A is equals to what? Is equals to string 1000. So then I want to print type A. That's same A. I think it's not. I hope it's not going to confuse with the other A. So now it told me that same A which I did there was an integer is now a string. So this is called casting in programming language. So we call this casting. So this is exactly how we play a lot with programming until you become used to it. You become an expert in using it. So let's go back to the slide and round up before the time runs out. So today we've actually done a lot about what I wanted to show you. So now we moved from here. So we said x is equals to 4 and x is equals to Sally. So the 4 is string integer and the Sally is a string. So if you want to specify a data type, you say, well, this is done by casting. You say x is equals to string, y is equals to int 3, and x is equals to float. But they said we can do it. So I will try again. Probably it's not working with this replit. It might work with the other one because I know I used to do it in my Jupyter notebook and it works very well. So this is how we cast. So that means we can cast string. We can also cast, we can convert this to integer. we can convert this to a float. But the point is, we cannot write a letter. We cannot say, for example, Umar into this place, and I think we should be able to do it. So I'll work with it a lot, and it works. So summarily, casting is for you to change one data type to another data type. So you can continue to try as much as you can, and you can find out which one will work and which is not going to work. But in most cases, I know casting would change a data type to another type. Let's say, for example, you can see this. So when you say X is equal to string 3, so he's going to see the 3 like this. He's going to see the 3 like what? Like this, that you put in the 3 into quotation. Because sometimes if you want to print, if you're trying to add two things together, let me show you how what I'm saying. If you're trying to add two things together, which are not the same type of data, you need to make one to look like another one. Let's say you say print my age is 10. Print my age is 10. If you run this, it's going to print you my age is 10. But if you say print my age and my age is, you put a 10 outside, you will have a problem here. Can you see? So you need to change this one to what the other ones were. What is the other one? They are what? They are string, right? You need to write str. So once you write the str, then you put another one here. So once you write your str, it's gonna see it as a string, and it's gonna print it. Say plus. I don't have time. That's why I'm rushing, because I time myself to 40 minutes. So I'm less than 1 minute now. So it might just go anytime. So once you do it like this, it's not going to throw an error. It's going to give you your result. Can you see now? Your result is what is now fine. So this is how we usually do it, that we convert the number to the type of the data before it. If you don't do that, it's going to be throwing you an error at all time. So this is exactly what I was trying to explain to you. Alhamdulillah, we've covered a lot today. We might not be able to answer your questions. I'm very sorry because of time. So if you have any questions, make sure you send it to me in the Facebook, in the WhatsApp, or in Telegram. So this is all we're going to do today. I pray Allah will bless all our effort. Barakallahu fikum. Any question before he stops?